Hey everybody, welcome back to Web Inspect. I'm Timothy Miller, your host, and today we are talking about a tool that I just started using a couple of months ago called TextSoap. TextSoap is one of those tools that I didn't know I needed until I started using it. And now that I've started using it, it saves me hours of monotonous work every week, and for that I'm very grateful. Not to brag, but as a programmer who's been doing programming for over a decade now, I have become very good at text manipulation. I am very fast at taking a piece of text and manually changing it into the text that I want it to be. I do this all the time. Clients send me Word documents that they want built into newsletters or just generic emails or websites or designs for something. I end up with all these different types of text that I need to convert into another type of text, and that is exactly what TextSoap is for. Now, I figured out a long time ago that I can manipulate text faster with text editors that have multiple cursors. So the only text editors I have used for the past 5 to 7 years are text editors that support multiple cursors, so I can edit more than one thing at a time. That's kind of the level of text manipulation I am at. But no matter how many cursors you have in your text editor, you are not going to be able to edit your files as fast as TextSoap can. For many of the text manipulation things that I do on a day-to-day basis, TextSoap is able to fix everything in the file with one click. You don't have to manually go through every line looking at it and removing spaces or changing quotes or doing anything like that. You just copy it into TextSoap, click scrub, and you're good. With all of that said, let's jump into the actual application, and I'm going to show you a number of different ways that I have found TextSoap useful over the last couple of months. Maybe it will help you get an idea of how versatile this application truly is. So let's jump into it. TextSoap is a very simple application at its core. It simply takes text, processes it, and spits it out. It comes with over 100 built-in functions, all of these things in the sidebar over here, and you can also daisy chain these functions together to create your own custom functions. You can also use regex if you are a pro, and you can get the job done in any number of ways. If you have any sort of routines in your day-to-day work around modifying or processing text, you can automate these routines with TextSoap. Now let's run through 17 different real-world examples for things TextSoap can automate. Here on the left, I have some very simple HTML code. It is just paragraph tags with some text. I am going to copy this into TextSoap. And one of the most frequently used tasks in TextSoap for me is this convert HTML to Markdown text. It's just a really quick, easy way to kind of scrub your text and change like an HTML web page or an HTML email into just plain text. So we pasted our HTML in here, then we just click convert HTML to Markdown text, and you can see we have nice, clean text that we can copy paste into anything we want to. Now, not only can you convert HTML to Markdown, you can also convert Word documents to Markdown. So here I have a basic Word document. I'm going to copy this text, paste it in here, and this is copied over as a rich text format. And rich text we can run a lot of the same things. So if we come in here and we do the same thing we did with the HTML, we do convert HTML to Markdown text, it does essentially the same thing. We can also use the Markdown text cleaner, which processes it as Markdown, which adds paragraph tags for us automatically. So you can convert Word documents to either HTML or Markdown at the click of a button. Now, with all this talk of Markdown, it would make sense that you would want to see what this Markdown looks like when you actually use it in a website. So, and this is actually HTML, it's not Markdown. We can convert HTML to Markdown like that, and then we can click Markdown text and preview, and it will show us what that copy would look like on an actual website. So it shows us in kind of a basic website scaffolding what it would look like. Now, another big thing for me is converting quotes. And in programming, quotes are very important. You use a lot of quotes, except they aren't actually real quotes. These here are what you call real quotes or smart quotes. What programmers tend to use are called primes, which are the quotes on your keyboard, these ones here. Well, except TextSoap just converted it into a smart quote. So if we come in here, if I was pasting code into TextSoap, I would not want smart quotes like this. So we can use the straighten quotes to convert from smart quotes to primes. and we have to highlight all the text, then we straighten quotes, and you can see those are now straight quotes instead of smart quotes. Now, of course, this goes the other way as well. If you're using a basic text editor like Sublime Text here, it will not automatically smarten your quotes. It will simply give you these primes. So if you want to use the typographically correct smart quotes, you can copy that into TextSoap and do smarten quotes, and it will convert to the proper punctuation, just like that. Speaking of typography, another very common problem when it comes to typography is line lengths that are too long. So as you can see in this text document, we have a whole bunch of paragraphs and they're all super long and you have to like scroll to read them all. And this is not ideal. It's very, very difficult to read this way. And even if you didn't have to scroll, even if we were to insert line breaks like this is still really long and hard to read. So generally you want your line lengths to be pretty easily readable, and TextSoap has settings just for this. So if we copy this text into TextSoap, paste that in here, and you can see here TextSoap does wrap automatically. Sublime Text here does not wrap. It makes you scroll. But TextSoap does wrap these automatically, but if you were to copy this into an email or something like that, it would not look like this. So what you can do is you can use the wrap at 50 or 60 workflow, and TextSoap will automatically insert line breaks where it makes sense. I can see I've got some dumb quotes in here too, so I might as well smarten those quotes real quick. And this copy is already looking much better. So now getting into slightly more advanced functionality, one thing that I do all the time with TextSoap is convert Word documents into emails that are available to send as HTML. So this is basically an advanced text to HTML workflow. And I'll take a Word document like this and I'll copy paste in here. Then I have a custom workflow called email conversion. And if I click that, you can see it wraps every paragraph in these paragraph tags with some styling already built in. This is just very, very handy if you're building HTML emails because this takes a lot of the repetitive work around building HTML emails out of the picture. So it makes it very, very simple and easy for me to just copy a Word document sent to me by a client, paste it into TextSoap, and it automatically converts it into an email-friendly format. And I can show you this custom workflow real quick just so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And it even does things like if we had a URL in this document, it converts that URL to text. So that will also be included in this HTML. Then I just apply the standard TextSoap scrub functionality that takes care of any weird characters going on in there. Then I convert it to Markdown. Then I do some really basic regex work where I replace any paragraph tags that I see with the paragraph tag that has the styling that I want. And that's basically how I do that. This is super, super handy for me and saves me a ton of time every week of just monotonous, no fun work. So I'm talking a lot about emails, and there's a reason I'm doing that because a lot of those of us who work in digital spaces tend to send and receive a lot of emails. And when you're sending emails to an important client or something like that, you really want your emails to be as easy to read and as professional as they can be. So TextSoap also helps you with that through a number of the things that we've already talked about, where you can take your email text, paste it into TextSoap, and then just do the standard typographic things to make sure you aren't making any huge mistakes. So I would recommend if you go into the email options here, you can just do a standard scrub to kind of remove all formatting. I would remove extra spaces just to make sure none of that stuff is happening, and maybe wrap it at 60 just to make sure it's easily readable for everyone. And it's just kind of a nice way to make sure your email is readable for everyone and just makes your emails look a lot more professional and a lot more put together to have just some of these basic formatting things handled. Another quick, easy fix for a lot of text that you might write is the capitalize common tech names workflow. So if we search for tech, capitalize common tech names, You click that and it's going to automatically work through your text and try to make sure any tech names you use are capitalized properly. I find this workflow a little spotty, if I'm honest. I wouldn't rely on it wholeheartedly. I find some tech company names, Mac OS X actually capitalizes better than this workflow does. For example, Tesla or Microsoft, you can see Mac OS X was trying to capitalize that, but this workflow does not. So it's a little bit spotty. Don't rely on this wholeheartedly, but it is kind of another good workflow to realize that you have access to. Now here's another rich text feature for you. If you take a Word document like this, you can copy it in to TextSoap and you can actually change the line spacing. You can set the line spacing to single or 1.5 or double spacing. It's not something I use super often, but for people who routinely work with rich text documents, I can see this being pretty useful. Another useful feature that TextSoap has is it can normalize dates for you. So if you have a bunch of dates in the same document that are maybe a slightly different format or something like that, and you just want to make sure that they are all synced up, you can actually search for dates, normalize dates to short format, and it will, that's the American format. You can also use like the international standard format. You can use, any of these formats. You can just really quickly and easily change dates to look however you want. And I find this very useful when I'm preparing documents for clients or whatnot, just to be able to very quickly swap between date formats and see what works best for the document that I am preparing. So another thing I get all the time, guys, is I get a document like this where the spacing is just kind of all over the place. And as a programmer, formatting in your text documents is very important to me, and this sort of thing drives me nuts, like having a whole bunch of spaces in front of one thing or having a whole bunch of extra returns here. So this is something that TextSoap is very good at helping us with. So if we copy paste this over here, then we can go into the remove extraneous group. And there are some very heavy-handed things in here. Don't be afraid to experiment, but some things like remove all spaces, that's obviously not what we want. But the nice thing is, everything is undoable in TextSoap. I can Control-Command-Z if I want to, just like that, or if I did something I don't want, I can also come up into the Edit menu, undo, remove all spaces, just like that. Now, if we want to fix these returns, I can do strip 2 or more returns. That's maybe a little more heavy-handed than I wanted, so we could also undo that and do strip 3 or more returns, and that's probably closer to what I want. And then to handle these spaces, we can just do strip 2 or more spaces, and that mostly takes care of that. We've still got one extra space there. None of these workflows will handle that, but you could easily create your own workflow to remove spaces at the beginning of lines if this is a big issue for you. Another thing that is useful for me, especially as a programmer, is that TextSoap makes invisible characters very easy to spot. So if I copy this over here again, paste that, you can see all these invisible characters that you wouldn't usually be able to see. So it's just handy to have a visual representation of everything that's going on here. All right, so we've been through a lot of little easy functionality things that TextSoap can do. For some slightly more advanced stuff, instead of copy pasting all of your text into TextSoap, you can also do a batch file cleaning here. So what this does is you can apply a cleaner to as many files as you want to, just by drag and dropping your files directly onto this batch file cleaning thing. So if you have a whole bunch of files that need text cleaning, TextSoap can also help you out without having to do a whole bunch of copy pasting. Another tremendously useful power user thing that TextSoap can do is you don't actually have to use the application itself. You can use this little utility up in the top here, and you can set up whatever group you usually use. You can set up the standard groups here, and then you can simply come into another application like this, go to your little menu item here, and use a workflow, and it works in whatever application you happen to be using at the time. So now we have used TextSoap without actually having to open the application, which can be extremely helpful. Last but not least, if you resent coming up and clicking on this icon to do these things, another thing that you can do, another power user feature, if you go into the preferences, you can actually set up shortcuts for any of these things. So you can record a shortcut that will simply open this command picker for you, or you can set up a shortcut for an actual workflow. So you can see I've got a keyboard shortcut set up here for wrap at 50, Command Shift Control 9. So if I come over here into Sublime, select all the text in here and run my shortcut, you can see it wraps everything, and it's just that easy. I would really recommend setting these things up if you have anything that you do more than a couple times a week. It is going to save you a tremendous amount of time just to be able to format a file at the stroke of a key. So that is TextSoap. That is 17 different things that I have found to be useful in my day-to-day work, and really that's only scratching the surface of the things that this application can do. It is tremendously powerful. It has been developed for over a decade, and a lot of care and attention has been put into this application being the best at scrubbing text. I will put a link to the application in the description down below. This is not sponsored. I am just a big fanboy of this application. It is a slightly more expensive application as far as Mac apps go. I actually get it through a subscription to Setapp, which I have been writing about over on my development blog, which I will put a link to in the description if you're interested in getting this through Setapp. I know that for me, I have saved more than enough time, even just in the last week, to pay off TextSoap many times over, so I could not be happier about my investment in this software. And that's all for this time, folks. I hope you got something out of this. I hope you enjoy it and perhaps pick up TextSoap and see what you think. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!